questions that I wanted to kind of start out with. I'm more of a discusser than I am a lecturer. Is why would you want to build a mountain home? Why would you want a cabin? What are some of the things that draw you to the mountains? And I'm curious to know what that is. Why are you here at this class?
Escape the heat.
Yes, for sure. I drive from Kanab every morning, and it's nice to be able to have a different environment to go to. Anything else?
Ski, mountain bike, be in nature.
Yeah. Being able to actually access all of the things that the mountain has to offer without having to spend an hour and a half driving up to it.
We're camping in a tent.
Yeah. Exactly. One of the things, you know, that I personally love about the mountains is the views. You know, you get to be in nature, you get to experience the calm and the quiet of that. And that's a lot of the stuff that draws people to the mountains. You're a little bit more remote, and there's just something different about being up there than down in the city. But it doesn't come with all positives. And so what I want to kind of share today is over 40 years plus of building in the mountains. We've gained a lot of insight into some of the things and challenges that you run into when you're building in a remote mountain area. So I want to kind of talk through what the mindset of a builder is and what's different about building in the mountains as opposed to building down in the cities. And sort of what our strategy is with that. So obviously some of the things we're going to talk about today are fire. Also we'll touch on things like access, kind of how to choose a location and what to look for when you're wanting to select a property or a mountain home itself. And then also you know, some of the feasibility of the different areas that you build in. So some people also go to the mountains to invest, to have rental properties and make money. There's a lot of opportunity for that as well if you're willing to invest in the mountain. The first thing we recommend is to get somebody who knows what they're doing, generally a general contractor, involved early on. There's a lot to know. There's a lot to be guided on. Get somebody who knows what they're doing up there. We have a lot of times where we get called in to come and kind of fix a problem from somebody that builds down in St. George or builds over in California, and they come up on the mountain and they just get absolutely hammered. There's multiple projects in Bryan Head specifically. If you drive up there during the parade in the next couple of weeks, you're going to see a lot of projects going on in addition to the couple of homes that they've got up there. One of the more prominent ones is when you go to the very, very top of Bryan Head. There's a street up there called Zion Avenue, and there's this project up there where there's these two buildings that are on the same lot, and there's a civil engineer out of Southern California that's building those. And I talked to him 4 years ago to bid those projects. They hired a company that was not from the mountain, that didn't have any experience building up in Bryan Head. They've gone through 3 contractors and they're still not finished. And so that's just sort of a horror story, but I like to bring that up because there's a lot of people that think they can do better, but when it comes to the mountain, the adage of you get what you pay for really, really becomes true very quickly. So get a builder that knows what they're doing involved early on, even if it's just as kind of a counselor to walk you through it. The next thing is find a builder that you connect with. Find somebody that you can actually communicate with. There's more decisions on a mountain home even than on a standard home. More things that come out of left field and more unknowns that you have to deal with. So we strongly recommend finding somebody that you have a good base of communication with.
Hey Peter, what are a couple, so I know like when you're building a mountain home, you're gonna need to put in a septic, water and power can be hard to find sometimes. What are some other things that people should watch out for?
Well, that was kind of the next thing that I was gonna talk about is when you go to the land acquisition phase of a project, you really wanna make sure that you're looking for your utility access. We've had a couple projects where, they're amazing views, but you sort of have to decide what your trade-off's gonna be. We built one right on the edge of the cliff overlooking the Strawberry Point recreation area. And, he really wanted to have that kind of experience, and, we were gonna have to pull the power about 1,500 feet in order to get it to his house. And so you really wanna be paying attention to the different, utility situations. And
What would a project like that cost to pull power 1,500 feet?
it was about $150,000. And so what we ended up deciding to do was put in a solar unit, which was able to power his cabin for as long as he needed. Just cause it snows up there doesn't mean that you can't use solar. And so that system only costs about $25,000, so degrees lower of what you would normally expect.
Sorry to interrupt, but
Of course.
you, with your experience, so you know the if we're starting off from scratch and just saying, you're gonna find a lot for us, and you're gonna find, hey, I recommend this lot because the power's not too far, and is that what you're?
Yeah, typically what we'll do is people will come to us and they'll have been working with a realtor of some kind, and we'll meet up with them and the realtor and go look at a couple of different lots, and I'll kind of give my feasibility assessment of you know, what are the pros and cons, and are they really gonna meet the needs and desires of you as a client individually. There's a lot of different things, like the utilities are really important, but every individual client that we have is different, right? Some people want to be more remote, they want that experience of not having access to, you know, normal things because they're way further away from everybody else. So, yeah, when it comes to the utilities and whatnot, that's definitely one consideration, but you've got other things like terrain. You know, do you wanna have a view of the red cliffs? Do you wanna be in the forest? Do you want it to feel like a cabin? Do you wanna have, as we were discussing earlier, you know, water is something that's really important to me. So depending on what you're looking for, there's a lot of different ways to solve a lot of different, you know, problems, if you will. But at the end of the day, what we try to do when building in mountains is try to find the best harmony of what you're looking for and what the mountain has to offer. So, yeah. Any other questions?
How developed is Brian Head, like a percentage wise of how much can you build up there still?
A lot. There's a new community going in called Aspen Meadows. Flint Decker with Gardner Plum Development Company. They just bought 2,000 acres and annexed it into Brian Head. And there's, over the next 30 years, there's 1,440 structures going in. And most of those structures are gonna be gated community, high-end mountain homes.
Oh, wow.
There's going to be a medical center that they put in up there with the helipad. There's gonna be a five-hole par 3 golf course. There'll be an LDS church that goes in up there, but the majority of the properties that are going to be up there are going to be high-end luxury estate type properties.
And Aspen Meadows is getting an additional lift that's gonna pipe into Brian Head.
Yeah, well, they're gonna have, I can't remember exactly how, but I wanna say it's like 4 or 5 additional ski lifts.
Wow.
So they're gonna almost double the size of the current skiable area up there.
Are they gonna tie into the other
Yes,
lifts?
yeah, so I believe the deal that they have and, is that the ski resort is going to lease it for, I wanna say like 10 years or something like that. So it'll be all part of the same pass and everything up there, but, yeah,
And
it's really
that's a
exciting.
big deal. I looked up, I think Brian Head is one of 2 ski resorts in the whole country that are expanding.
Yeah,
Huh.
Cause it's
Wow.
very hard to get permission to plow down the forest and put up ski
Yeah.
lifts.
yeah. Well, and And the
we're
other,
fortunate enough to be part of that.
the other thing they're doing as part of that is they're upsizing all of the, and modernizing all of the utilities and infrastructure that goes up to Bryan Head. So one of the weird things about Bryan Head right now is they don't have a gas station. And that will change very shortly, but just to give you an idea of kind of the lift. So from an investment standpoint, Bryan Head specifically, in my opinion, is an incredible investment. I think you're gonna start seeing Park City type numbers going up there here in the next probably 5 to 10 years. And it's just gonna keep expanding like that, because its proximity to Las Vegas is really gonna kind of drive that. You're gonna get a lot of people from Southern California and people running the casinos in Vegas that are gonna start investing their money up there. But it's very new. It's still kind of a little bit of a secret up there, and so we're excited. We're one of the preferred builders in that community. Flint, the developer, has come and looked at a couple of our projects and deemed us worthy to be in there. So,
And from a real estate perspective, that's really exciting to me. I think that the sky's the limit for Bryan Head. As St. George and Cedar grows, which you guys have seen the growth in the last 10 years, it will as well. And like you said, a lot of our business could start growing from Las Vegas.
yeah, no, I think it's exciting. There's a lot of good investment opportunities. Any other questions? I like doing questions way better than I like
It's not like
lecturing.
CCNRs that limit the amount of short-term rental nights you can do
In
your-
certain communities, so like Aspen Meadows is sort of adjacent to the rest of Bryan Head. You have to drive, I don't know how familiar you are, but Steam Engine Drive is kind of how you access the part that's being newly developed up there. And as you drive up, there's certain HOAs that won't allow you to do any short-term rentals, but Aspen Meadows particularly will allow you to, and most of the other ones do. I mean, they're a ski resort town. They know that a lot of the investment opportunity and revenue is going to come from short-term rentals. So.
I don't know any in Bryan Head that don't allow to you.
Yeah, well,
Is there one or two?
I know Steam Engine, that's like, there's like a Steam Engine HOA right as you get into.
Those like 30 houses or something.
Before that fence that you have to drive
Yeah.
through. Right there, those ones don't allow, because I have a client right now that's actually on the border there, and they're trying to switch into the Aspen Meadows HOA so that they're allowed to do short-term rentals. So short-term rentals are a big deal up there, and they're still kind of working out some of the kinks as far as the town's concerned, with the rules and whatnot. But most of them will allow that. I know Aspen Meadows will for sure. They've got a lot of other
So I looked at
rules.
some that they would limit the amount, like only
No.
150 nights. a
No,
year.
there's a couple communities up there that will, but most of them don't, because they understand, like I said, primarily that's what most people are going to be using it for.
And you know, us that don't have AJ kind of money, you can still build a 2-bedroom, you know, 2-bath kind of cabin. That's what my long-term goal is, to have an investment like that, but I don't need the 4-bedroom. I just need the 2 with the 2 baths, so we can use it during Christmas time and rent it out.
Yeah.
The rest of the time.
So for something smaller in Bryan Head, the one thing you have to realize is that as you get smaller, the cost per square foot tends to go up. And so you do kind of hit a floor somewhere around $400,000 to $500,000 in Bryan Head, even if it's really small as a standalone structure. Sometimes I'm a builder, so I should be trying to get everybody to build something all the time, but they do have like condos and stuff up there that are they're really good options if you're looking for something smaller in Bryan Head initially. As standalone properties that are on the smaller side, I probably wouldn't honestly build in Bryan Head proper if I was going to do something like that. That's what would draw me a little bit more towards the Duck Creek area, just because it's going to be a lot friendlier from a maintenance and access standpoint, but also a building cost standpoint. Just as a juxtaposition, a building permit in Bryan Head at a minimum is probably gonna be around $20,000. Whereas a building permit in Kane County over in Duck Creek, you're looking, you know, $2,500 to $3,000. So your scale of difference in cost is pretty vast.
Can I add one thing to this?
Please.
I used to own a cabin up at Bryan Head, and we bought the cabin halfway done, and then we finished it. You hit the nail on the head about the contractor. I did not know this or fully appreciate the frost line. Now, at Bryan Head, the water line was supposed to be 4 feet underground. The builder put it 14 inches underground. We didn't know that when we bought it. So here we go up there, first week in November, you turn the switch on, there's no water. And when I dug down, I found the water line at 14 inches.
Holy smokes.
This is all frozen.
So
That's
you
crazy.
gotta have the right builder.
Yeah.
You gotta have someone that, like you said, they've been through how many builders? 3 builders.
Yep.
3 builders.
Yep. They still haven't come back to us.
Stubborn.
They're
Still
embarrassed,
hope.
that's why.
Can you talk a minute about, so obviously huge fire in Beaver this year. I know at the beginning of this summer, we were super excited, we're gonna get all these build jobs, and then this huge fire comes through, and now people are kinda like, oh, I don't know if I wanna build a cabin right now, how do I know that next summer it's not gonna burn down?
Yeah.
What do we do about that? How do we minimize our risk?
So there's a lot of different things to consider. The state just passed a new law that will go into effect, I believe in January. It was supposed to go into effect about 2 days ago, but they postponed it to January. And it's basically a wildfire tax on rural properties that are what they call in the wildland urban interface zones, which is basically where your wildfire high-risk areas come in contact with human dwellings of some kind, which is anywhere that I currently build. And so there's a lot of different things with that, but basically a wildland urban interface, and in the little booklet I actually put a copy of
Fire
this
hazard
fire
survey.
hazard survey. So this is actually the actual document that the town of Bryan Head uses when they go and evaluate your property before you can even get a building permit. And it's kind of interesting to look at. Let me try and find exactly where it's at. It's interesting to look at the different things that they consider when they're doing these hazard surveys. And we currently have a house that scored 95 on this, which is very high. And they're actually gonna make us put fire sprinklers in the house because of the score. So that's one thing to think about. Some of the ways you keep your house from burning down, and I think the insurance guys are gonna talk about it a little bit as well, but they have recommended kind of zones of vegetation control. When you're within 5 to 10 feet of the house, you're not gonna wanna have any vegetation at all, any grass whatsoever. You're gonna wanna put a bunch of rock and gravel down. Typically, we do a 5-foot gravel border around the entire perimeter of the house, for a couple of different reasons, but that's one of the primary reasons. The next zone out, you're gonna wanna keep, very few trees, no trees with limbs that are actually overhanging the house, and minimal grasses. They have specific heights and everything, which I put a website in here that you can go to, and it'll kind of walk you through what those different zones are, and you can even plug in your address and see what the state is going to consider your property at, as far as the fire risk is concerned. And so using those tools is really important, but as far as building goes, you want to pick materials that are not going to be super flammable, and you really want to maintain your property correctly. Even after you buy it, there's not a lot I can do about whether or not you pick up deadfall on your lot 2 years after I've built it, but those are kind of the main things, is maintaining control of the vegetation, and then also you know, making sure that you're being aware of what kind of siding you're using and not putting a tinder box right in the middle of a place that's prone to fire, so.
So suffice it to say, you'll deliver the cabin in the best shape possible to be fire resistant or have that defensible space.
Yep, yeah, and a lot of it's required by the permits, but we've been doing stuff up there so long, it's kind of second nature to what we do as part of our process. You know, I've had people ask me to put sprinklers on their roof before, and, you know, other silly things like that. But really what it comes down to is things that are much more simple, you know, making sure that your siding has got a fire rating that's reasonable, and it affects whether or not the lenders are gonna lend on it, and whether or not the insurance companies are going to insure it. And so we try to always make sure that no matter what, you're not gonna be in a situation where you're having problems getting insurance and lending, based off of the design and the approach of the house.
Well, is it alright if we transition to that? I'd like to give the insurance guys some time.
Yep.
So obviously Beaver, I mean, I'm sure that some of those cabins had the defensible space and the sprinklers and all the things they were supposed to do, and there were cabins still lost. So you guys can come up here and you know, spend 15 or 20 minutes talking about insurance and what we need to do and what's going to happen, so.
Ready to? I'll throw these on.
Yeah, have them put those on.
You wanna throw
We're
these on real
recording
quick?
this, and that's a mic that's
Here's-
gonna
oh,
sound
cool.
a lot better, so.
Just
So it's like a
move
magnet?
on. Yeah. Just tested them too, so they're all up and
All
running.
good to go.
Yeah. Here's that one.
So walk me through this here. I'm
Yeah,
special.
let me see it. So put one. You got the magnet?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's
put
right here.
that just behind. Yeah.
Oh, it just goes like this. So it doesn't have to put.
Yeah. Perfect.
Oh, thank you. You want this?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, so like we said, we're with Iron Desert Insurance. My name is Justin Anderson, and this here is my business partner, Tyler Jensen. We're excited to be here. Fun topic with wildfire risk. It's a really taboo subject right now. Seems like half of Utah's on fire, and insurance has been tough, and it's been getting tougher. It seems like just 3-4 years ago, there were tons of companies that would take properties in Bryan Head, Duck Creek, all these mountain areas, no problem. But they just seem to be dropping like flies, unfortunately. So it's really important to know what you need to do, and you spoke to this a little bit, and how you can make your property look appealing to the insurance companies, so that you can get it insured and be able to move forward. So first we want to talk about, what do the carriers look at? What do they actually want to see? And you talked about that mapping, the new mapping that's come out. That has been interesting as well. It seems to have impacted the mountain areas, but also even Cedar City areas in St. George that you wouldn't think would be high wildfire risk. But all we can do is just prepare the properties and make them look as appealing as possible, I guess I'd say. So everything on the mountain is going to be mapped as a high risk area, and really anything that has a lot of brush close by. So you'll want to keep that in mind when looking for a cabin, or wanting to build, or buy one.
What can I expect to pay for a cabin insurance as opposed to my home here in St. George? Is it going to be astronomical? Is it going to be?
It depends. Yeah, it's a great question. So in the past, it honestly hasn't been too bad. It's been fairly comparable, I'd say. And even still, if you can get a standard carrier to take your cabin, and by standard carrier I mean a lot of the names that we all hear: Liberty Mutual, Nationwide, State Farm, Allstate, your rates really won't be terrible. I mean, your standard $500,000 cabin, fairly small, you're probably looking at somewhere in the ballpark of $1,000 to $2,000 a year if you can get with a standard carrier. you say that's accurate? Is that an okay?
Yeah, yeah, that's, yeah.
So very comparable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So, but how about today, now that we've had all these things happen?
yeah. So if we can still get approved with standard carrier, it's still not bad. But a lot of these are now going to excess and surplus lines or non-standard carriers. And those, you're probably looking at anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 a year. And they, depends on the cabin. I mean, that is definitely a ballpark estimate. But there's a lot of other considerations that go in with that. Some of them might not have the same coverage as a standard carrier would have. They have certain exclusions. They might have high wildfire deductibles that could be as high as like $25,000. But it's still doable. We can still get a policy in place, so we don't want people to be scared off. And a lot of the trends that we see happening, so in California is the most famous example. They have what they call the California Fair Plan. And if an insured can't find a policy in the normal market, they can't get a company to take it, there's a government company called the California Fair Plan. The government kind of just oversees everything, and they're a last resort carrier that will take it. They have to take it for wildfire. They're expensive, and people don't love them, but it gives them an option so that they can have the home. We're starting to see expansion. Utah still does not have that, but Colorado just recently adopted a similar plan. And a lot of these coastal states have them as well, like Texas, Florida. So yeah.
I'm just curious if the different practices in forest management between the states
Mhm.
affects whether or not insurance companies will insure your cabins.
I think so, yeah. If there's an area that's being managed well, I think that's gonna have a pretty big impact. It might take some time for the insurance companies to catch on that this forest is managed completely different than some of these others. But yeah, that is a very real risk. And we had an underwriter where we used to write a lot of our cabin properties, and he drove up the mountain when he came to visit in Duck Creek, and it scared him off with all the dead trees and the bark beetle and all that stuff. And from that trip, he just said nothing in Duck Creek. We can still do Bryan Head and some other areas with those guys, but it is a real issue. Yeah.
So maybe other people have heard these horror stories with Hawaii and California, but can insurance carriers cancel you when they hear a fire going on 10 miles from your cabin?
Great question. So no, they cannot cancel you just because there's a fire or something going on. Now they can non-renew you if they feel like you're in too high of a wildfire risk area, but they can't cancel you just because of a fire. The other thing they can do is they put moratoriums in place, is what they call them, where they just pause all business, all changes. So as soon as there's a fire in that zip code or area, they will say you can no longer buy an insurance policy in this area until this fire's done. You can't change your coverages. You can't just double your coverage because the fire's coming. So that also can be a little bit of an issue. But
that's good. That's good that if you've got something in place, it stays. And
Yeah.
it's honestly fair. It wouldn't be fair to the insurance companies if I'm like, oh, I'm in Bryan Head and it's coming up the mountain. I'm going to quadruple my coverage.
yeah.
What if you're in the middle of building, and the construction loan, is that covered with fire insurance?
That's a good question. So,
That's a great question.
one of the things that you'll want to get, and that will be required if you have financing of any kind, is a builder's risk policy. And it sounds like it's there to cover the builder, and it 100% is not. It's there to cover the asset as it currently sits, any materials and whatnot. So if you get to the framing stage of a project and a wildfire rips through there and burns everything down, the builder's risk policy will basically cover everything that has happened so far. So it's sort of like a bridge thing, and they can speak more to that. But
Yeah, that's exactly right. And if an insured needed to go get their own, there's also versions of that for like an owner builder or somebody else that, or a builder that doesn't want to provide builder's risk, you can get a normal homeowner's policy with a course of construction endorsement that does the same thing, a little trickier on those mountain properties. The builder's risk is probably the way to go. But yeah, it would be covered during that construction phase.
What kind of considerations would be made for someone who did do fire sprinklers and someone who didn't in
Yeah.
like an area like that? Or what are the big things that you could do to maybe incentivize them to insure you?
Yeah, great question. So they do have discounts. They're not as big as they probably should be for things like sprinklers. But the biggest thing is going to be kind of like you had touched on, roofing. They definitely don't want to see wood shakes or anything on your roof if you're on the mountain. They prefer steel roofing or metal roofing. Trees close to the home or touching the roof, things like that are going to be an automatic no, and they'll go out and inspect the home. Another big one, and you might be able to speak to this, the company that we have that still writes up there pretty well, they won't do open foundations. So if it's on piers or stilts or anything like that, they automatically will shut that down. Is that something that people still build regularly, or is that not?
Where we build, it's currently not allowed by the building department.
Hallelujah, great for insurance.
I mean, you can get away with doing like a little wing of the house, but
Yeah.
as a primary foundation, no. Although I will tell you, probably 60% of the cabins that are currently constructed up there are on piers.
Yeah.
So you're saying all those cabins built in the past on piers, there are insurance carriers dropping them, or what's going on?
Most of them are not dropping them, but if you have insurance on something like that, never let it go, because they're.
So in other words, if I see a cabin up there that's 20 years old and I'm like, oh sweet, I love the deal, I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah.
I may buy it and find that no insurance carrier will take it.
Yeah, you will be able to find something on it, but it's
Yeah.
going to be expensive, and the coverage won't be as good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's an incentive to build new with
Yeah, there you go. Just build over here, brand new cabins.
Yeah.
And the newer stuff is easier to insure as well.
Mhm.
Companies like new builds.
Have you seen siding ever affect your insurance prices? I get a lot of clients that ask me about siding specifically.
Yeah, log siding or like log homes can be a little bit more to insure. So if you use like a kit log home, can be more. Seems like your normal frame stuff, if they choose to do stucco or even like the hardy board siding, seems the insurance companies like that a little bit more. I think just feels a little less like a cabin, maybe. It's a little scary for them. But they do prefer, most companies do prefer that it's not log. Yeah.
And, I have training 4 mornings a week with what I do with a living for financing.
Yeah.
And a couple of weeks ago, they were talking about the Palisade fire, and then one of our account reps from Fannie Mae is from Salt Lake, and she lives in Texas.
Yeah.
And her family used to own a cabin in Pine Valley.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and being familiar with everything, it was a great topic of interest, because the 17 cabins that burned down in Pine Valley, all 17 are either in the process or are done
Right.
that fast. But the Palisades, I think they said statistically, is it 2% of the houses have been rebuilt so far?
Wow.
And that boils down, they keep blaming it on insurance.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? I can't lend in California, I can in Utah and Idaho, but I don't know what the difference is. Why there is there a problem, and why here? Is it just because Utah's good, or what's the scenario?
Utah's definitely
Yes,
good.
that's
Yeah.
right.
I mean, insurance companies love Utah for some reason. I mean, we seem to, until recently with these wildfires, we're just a very good, profitable state for insurance companies. I can't speak to why they're struggling so much in the Palisades, but I think it could have to do with just the companies over there
It's
and
just expensive.
yeah,
And
It's
the
probably-
houses that burned down in the Palisades,
yeah,
they start at $5 million. So you go
Yeah.
to $20, $25 million homes that they want to be, and insurance companies like, All
Hold
my
on.
family's in California. State Farm will not do
Oh, yeah.
one policy at all,
Yeah.
no matter what you are, and they're charging up to $8,000 to $10,000 a month on some of these houses in Pasadena and stuff like that because of the fires. And
Yeah.
they just said, we're dropping you. We're not going to get new policies. We're out of California. And it's just
Sad. It's sad. Yeah. So.
I have a brother-in-law who just lost both of his cabins at Elk Meadows.
Oh no!
wow.
I'm sorry to hear that.
He was building a smaller cabin and a big cabin. He lost both cabins, fifth wheel trailer, a side by side, and 2 4-wheelers. And he did not have the cabins insured
Oh no!
by his own choice,
Oh,
because he was the builder and he was building it for himself, and he just building it as he went. He did not have insurance on anything. Brutal.
that's devastating.
You don't require people to have insurance if they're getting a loan, or
What's that?
you require people to have fire insurance if they're building a cabin.
If you have
they're
if
getting
you have a loan on it, but if you're building it out of pocket, there's no one to police that.
Yeah.
And that was
It's
the
brutal.
first thing that Fannie Mae said to me when I came, AJ asked me to be ready for this. The only concern Fannie Mae has is making sure we take into consideration on mountain property what the insurance is gonna be
Mhm.
for the debt to income ratio. That was Fannie
Yeah.
Mae's only concern. Utah and Idaho, no problem.
No problem.
Yeah.
Cool.
Wow. Yeah, we'll move on. That's the,
Okay.
but the last things I want to talk about, just that carriers look at, is definitely emergency access. How far you are from a fire department. Usually, you want to be within 10. In the Duck Creek and Bryan Head areas, you're usually within that. And then property maintenance, obviously, and just maintenance of roads as well, getting into the cabin. So, you want this?
I'll just take it off of here. Yeah, Peter, you already kind of touched on this, but just touching on the wildfire preparedness and how to set up your property for success, especially in those wildfire-prone areas. And we've kind of adjusted the footage a little bit from the mapping just based on what we've seen with carriers in the past and what they prefer. So 0 to 10 feet, like you said, we don't want pine needles, dry leaves, anything like that around the perimeter. A lot of people like to stack their firewood alongside the cabin so that it's easy to grab. Insurance carriers hate that because it's literally fuel to the fire, right? So we want to avoid that. If you've got gutters, keep them clean and remove any dead vegetation. That's 0 to 10 feet. Like I said, we kind of increase it a little bit based on what the carriers prefer. 10 to 50 feet, we want to see trees limbed up 6 to 10 feet based on the size of the tree. And, we're trying to spread out the fuel, I guess you could say. So trees and shrubs, we want to break those apart as much as possible. And I'll kind of get into that on the 50 to 100 feet as well. And obviously remove dead trees and shrubs. Those light up fast and they will cause some damage. So, and obviously keep grasses and weeds down, mow them down. Don't let them get too crazy, because that leads us into the 50 to 100 feet. We're thinning dense vegetation. Right now we're a little bit further away from the cabin, but we still want to keep things manicured. And removing ladder fuels. Does anyone know what ladder fuels are? Anyone familiar with that term?
I think it's branches, at least in my reading, it's mostly like branches can climb up to the tree, top of the tree and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's basically the fire's ability to elevate, right? So it starts in the grasses, goes to high grasses, then your shorter trees, saplings, shrubs, and then those can lead into the taller trees and the bigger trees that are really going to throw those embers out, right? So eliminating those chances. If you've got smaller trees underneath larger trees that could cause that ladder effect, we want to get rid of those and we want to clear those up so we can prevent that elevation gain from the fire, because those falling debris are what's going to help that fire spread a lot faster. And then we're trying to create fuel breaks as well. Like we said, removing shrubs and trees that are too close together. The further apart we can get them, the harder it is for that fire to spread. So yeah, this doesn't just help it be safer if a wildfire were to occur. Insurance companies look at this and they will do inspections and check in on it, and it could, be the make or break whether you qualify for insurance or not. So keeping a well-manicured property in those wildfire zones is incredibly important to be insurable, and keep your coverage for the long term.
Awesome. Okay, and then just moving on, we kind of already hit on a lot of these, but common insurance red flags. Brush is going to be number one. If you've got brush close to or touching the cabin, it's going to be tough to get an underwriter to inspect it and say yes. Overhanging trees is another big one that we see where they want people to chop those down, trim limbs. Unrepaired damage, just roofing and siding is huge. Wood stoves is a really big thing in cabins. You want to make sure those are getting looked at professionally every so often to make sure they're maintained and cleaned, those can be a source of fires pretty commonly. And then just making sure that it's maintained properly. One other thing I did want to just hit on is with the excess and surplus policies, if we can't get it with a standard carrier, one thing that you might want to know for your clients is it's going to take a lot more time. So we don't want to bring it down to the finish line where we have like 3 days before closing and we're trying to get a policy in place, because with standard carriers we usually can get that done same day most of the time even. But with these excess and surplus carriers, we usually have to go to a brokerage, and they're usually a week minimum to get quotes back. So just one other thing to keep in mind is to manage expectations. Start shopping for insurance early if you're buying a mountain property or a cabin, so that you can make sure that you're good to go and comfortable with the costs, and you don't have any surprises at the end there. So.
And Jeff, correct me, but if we don't have a policy in place, we're not closing per Fannie Mae.
That is correct. You can't get it cleared to close if you don't have the insurance policy already in place. And I did call, can I just add to this real quick?
Please, yeah.
When I talked to Fannie Mae today, because of the ability to work remotely now since COVID hit, they can do up to, even on a cabin property, recreational property, etc., they can do loans now with only 5% down still, as long as the total loan is under $832,000. So like on the houses you're building where you talked about $500,000 or $600,000, if someone's got 5% and they say I'm going to work remotely, which a lot of people do. My processor works for me and she lives in Idaho. Everybody knows someone that works remotely. So as little as 5% down, you can get a cabin.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're business owners, so. Well, do you guys have any quick questions for them? Otherwise, I'd like to bring Jeff up, and he can speak a little more in depth on construction financing. Any questions on insurance? Yeah.
Yeah, so on a new build, are you guys working hand in hand as you're setting these perimeters, as you're starting to build? Like, do you guys come in at 3 months, 6 months, or on the build? Is there a certain time that you guys do on new builds?
Yeah. I would say the sooner the better, just so we know, because we can get quotes in place. I'd say when there's only a couple months left before we're thinking it's going to be wrapped up, we probably want to start thinking about the insurance and make sure that we've got the best policy in place possible well before closing.
And from a lender's point of view, we'd want to know it as soon as possible so we know what the cost is going back to the debt to income ratio to make sure you're fully qualified. Okay.
Awesome. Any other questions?
Differences between Nevada and Utah?
Yeah, great question. So Nevada, for the most part, seems to be okay on property insurance. They have more issues with auto insurance, but most of these same things are going to apply to a Nevada home as well for insurance. Pretty similar.
Great.
Cool.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Can we grab those mics from you?
Yep.
Absolute.
So everybody, this is Jeff Worthington. He's the owner of Crestmore 2.
Well, thank you.
And if he is B, he's the first one to tell the client to go take that great deal. So anyways, my family and I, we love Jeff a lot, and he's been a great friend to us. He's going to talk about some of the really cool construction programs, including a new 5% down construction. So you can build, you can walk in before you've even bought the lot. 5% of the total build cost and land cost is all you need to get started.
Okay, and that's usually the very, other than the style of cabin, the location of the cabin, the next thing that comes into mind is the dollar signs. Okay, and then that monthly payment. So we're seeing a lot more people asking about the 5% down program. And the 5% down program is relatively new. It hasn't been out just a year or two, but everything takes a while for the wheels to get going. So 5% down, you can pay for the lot, the cost to build, and you're off and running as long as it's a primary residence. So, and that's when you go back to working remotely. If you're working remotely and you can consider it a primary residence, and you fill out the paperwork that Fannie Mae accepts, then the 5% down, you're off and running. So on an $800,000 house, they could get into it for $40,000 as long as they can make the payment on the $760,000 loan. And please note, there will be closing costs associated with it. The biggest one is always title insurance, you know, between that and the appraisal, and if you have an escrow account. But the 5% is brand new. It's very, very positive. When I talked to our rep from Fannie Mae, most people are still doing 10 to 20% down. And the reason they're doing the 20% down, everyone's probably aware of this, so they're avoiding the PMI. So they don't have that on their monthly payment. So the average 10 to 20%, but 5%. So if I walked up to you and said, hey, like what Carlos said a minute ago, I'd like a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500, 1,800 square foot cabin, and the cost was $500,000, $25,000, you're into a house, you know, and that's a great way to go. Just the normal qualifications, 50% debt to income ratio. They're looking for, you know, the things that control it are your FICO scores, your debt to income ratio, your job history, just the normal same stuff.
Does that, so some of the things that we run into, because obviously cabins are second homes usually, does that have any bearing on how that whole process goes?
The only thing is on a second home, kind of like an investment property, the interest rate is slightly higher than the primary residence.
But can you still do this 5%?
On a second home, no.
No.
No, has to be a primary residence.
Can you count some of the income if you're gonna short-term rent it as income for the loan?
What did you say?
Can you count the rent if you're gonna short-term rent it for like income towards the loan?
I did not ask on that, but I'll just use the guideline they have is used for a normal Fannie Mae loan. If you've got a history of already renting and you've got like on your 1040s on your Schedule E, you've got rental income, there's usually a way to figure that out. But if it's brand new and you haven't rented before, I'll bet they're going to want to see a year or two worth of tax returns showing that income.
So maybe some homework for you, Jeff, is to see if there's any program that would allow us to either use projections or market area rents on a cabin just like it in Bryan Head to help us get our financing possibly.
So forecasting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know there's like a DSCR loan kind of does that.
Yes.
Is that one that we could use in a construction scenario, or there's no way?
Well, the DSCR loan is a minimum of 20% down.
Right.
I'll find out.
So that'd be fun to know.
I'll find out.
And I think Mary Ann and I want to know, we're real estate professionals. Can we work remotely according to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and buy our cabins with 5% down?
I'll find out. Just so if this is being videoed, I want to make sure I'm saying the right thing. My personal opinion, yeah, we can figure out a way, but we have to fit in.
We would never want to do anything wrong in
No.
Fannie Mae's eyes. So.
Your primary, which it would be.
Yep. Are you guys familiar with the quarterly, the state issues? What's the word I'm looking? They just issued it every quarter that tells you what's going on in the real estate world in the state of Utah. And some of the things that you can get in trouble for can be that small.
Right.
And they get blown out of proportion. So yeah, I'd like to make sure I know.
We want to do everything on the up and up, of course.
Yeah, yep. But I'll find out. And you have everyone's information, right? So if I get the
course.
answer tomorrow morning, when I get back to my office tonight, I'll email our rep, and she's great to respond. We'll get that for you.
Cool. All right. So if people are wanting to build a cabin, they could do 5% down, but they have to claim that as a primary residence, correct?
That is correct.
They could come in with 20% down, and there's a lot more options that way, correct?
Uh-huh. Or a minimum of 10% down.
Minimum of 10%.
But they will
down.
have PMI.
Okay.
Yep.
So for 5 and 10% down, you can get a cabin in almost any scenario, provided you qualify for the monthly payment.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we want to know is, can we use this income that we are now going to receive as Airbnb owners to help us qualify?
Is there a formula? So you're a real estate agent? Okay. Is there a formula you and AJ use? Like if someone says, I'm buying a property for $500,000 and I should be able to Airbnb it 100 days a year at so much. Is there a formula that you use when you're selling a property?
Well, so there's a company called AirDNA, and they compile data. Now I'm told that while this data is maybe the best out there, that mortgage companies still don't rely on it. They want, really all you can do, I think, is grab your neighbor's data and share it, and they might count that, and they might not too.
Okay, all right, I'll find out. I'll know by tomorrow morning
Great.
at the latest, okay?
How long can you hold a construction loan?
How long? The normal one we see from our side is 9 to 12 months. What do you see?
So, some of the lenders that we've worked with more recently have started, especially in Bryan Head, have allowed it to go for 2 years.
So you don't have to start paying until it's finished, right?
Well, typically you have to pay at least the interest payments during the course of the loan, and it'll be based off of, and I'm not the financial guy, but my experience is it'll be based off of how much you've spent of that loan to that point. So
That meets the 5% down. They want the minimum of what you've drawn so far at the 5% down program. You are correct.
And Jeff, can you real quickly tell us about one-time closed construction loans and traditional two-time?
Yeah, the one time, like this 5% down, one time your interest, so let's pretend the going interest rate is 6%. You're locked in at 6% right then. It carries on once the home is built. And if the rates have dropped, a lot of the banks will give you an option to roll the rate down to the current rate. And a one-time close, and I've done several two-time closes that have been more beneficial than I thought the one-time might be, only because the only thing is you're paying title insurance twice. That's the biggest one that I've noticed.
Yeah.
If a lender's really aggressive and really careful, the client's not losing anything at all, but the gain might be bigger if the interest rates have gone down.
And then the one-time construction loan, the advantages there are, I pick the lot, I put my 5% on the total thing, and now I just pay interest-only payments, and I don't need to come up with any more down payment.
That is correct.
When it's finished. And I know that if interest rates go south, I've already locked it in.
Right.
And my builder loves this because he knows the whole job is secured, and he doesn't have to get an appraisal at the end and then fight the appraiser to say that what you paid for is what the cabin's actually worth.
yeah, you'll still have to get an appraisal at the end, but it really doesn't affect whether
They don't have a
or not
choice
it's
not to
closed.
because they've already
Exactly.
promised the money. Yeah.
Exactly, and that is one, appraisals are a pain in the neck up in.
Because you and I are working on one where you built the cabin, you agreed on this price, you performed the job, and the construction loan has started and now is trying to end, and then the appraiser's saying, well, first of all, the appraiser doesn't seem very well versed in the area because he can't find the comps, but he's saying that it's not worth the amount that you guys agreed on,
Yeah.
and the amount that it literally costs to build it.
Yeah.
So,
I've read several thousand appraisals, and actually I have a family member that is an appraiser. And so I get to see it on a daily basis, and whether you're a builder or a lender or an agent or insurance or whatever field you're in, sometimes things are just tough. You know, an appraisal, from what I witnessed, is a professional opinion, because there's so many variables, but you're only allowed to have the comps be so far away, and there's so many factors, and it's just like when you're building a house or you're trying to make a sale, or there's a lot of variables.
Yeah.
Yep, but I like the 5% down because it keeps cash in the client's pocket, you know, and just makes things a little bit easier.
Okay, well, Marianne and I want to buy our 5% down cabins, so let's get going.
Okay.
Do you guys have any questions for Jeff?
Oh,
Sorry.
I just wanna pick out a lot, but maybe not start building it yet, is that possible?
Of course.
Yeah. So yeah, you just use a lot loan, and then we can sit on it and wait till you're ready. And you could do. How much can she buy a lot for 5% down as well?
Yeah. The only problem is
10%.
it's supposed to be, you can buy, if you're buying the lot early, they want the lot and the construction to begin at one time. So
For the one-time
Saying how
close.
long, 'cause you said
For a-
2 years.
for a
Yeah,
one-time close.
If you're gonna get a construction loan, but if you obviously.
Sorry, Marianne, you have to start now.
Yeah.
Well, I have my construction loan.
Let's make a deal. Let's go.
But if you were to buy the lot now, I have seen some of the, I don't have lot loans that I can do, but I've seen some of the credit unions or local banks that have the lot loans for like 25% down. Some have a special, sometimes 20% down.
The other thing I'll say that is probably not good to say, but I'm gonna say it anyway, is. in
Cover up the
mountains,
mics, just kidding.
Moving property is more difficult often, and so there's a lot more opportunities for seller financing on mountain properties than there typically would be in an urban
In a city,
environment.
yeah.
So that's something that I would recommend if you're looking to just get the lot. You can often, obviously you still wanna get like a title company involved and whatnot, but there's a lot more seller financing opportunities on mountain properties from what I've seen.
And then we would encourage you to get Peter involved so that you can pick a lot that's going to be easy to build on. Not in 5 years we find out that the power is 1,500 feet away or something.
Yeah.
So
Well, and to add on to that, not to take all of Jeff's time as well, but we like getting involved in the design process pretty early on. We have a project right now that AJ went to this last weekend that I've been working with them for 5 years, and 4 of those years were doing the plans and changing things and altering this and that. So we like to get involved the second you get a lot, even if we're not gonna build it for a while, just so that everybody's on the same page and we have time to tweak everything, cause
How long does it take to finish like a 2,000 square foot cabin?
our build time up there is gonna vary significantly depending on when during the year we start, because weather can impact things pretty in a big way. So
She needs it by Christmas.
Well, that's what I mean, is like, I wanna pick out a lot now,
Yeah.
but not want the frame to be snowed on,
Yeah, so
start it
we're
after.
we're gonna recommend you start as early in the year as you can. We work all the way through the year. Regardless, we typically try to get concrete in before Thanksgiving. That gives it time to cure appropriately, typically before there's too much snow and cold weather. But our turnaround time generally is gonna be anywhere between 9 months to a year and a half. It varies a lot with the lot that we have, the access that we have, the type of weather that we end up getting, and when during the year we start. But that's the range that typically I'll give people.
So we have about 10 minutes left. I want to bring Peter back up here.
Okay.
He has prepared a number of homes that he's already spec'd out and priced out that are very affordable. If you could hand him that mic as well. So we wanted to talk about these for a minute.
So then I need to talk to you, Jeff.
And then we're going to end at 7:30, but all of us are going to stick around for about 30 minutes. So if you have questions about your personal situation, we'd love to talk about those. But anyway, yeah, go ahead. I think I'm gonna start here at your most affordable, which is, let's see.
Not that one. There you go.
425, the Pine.
Yep.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So
Okay,
this
so tell us about this. Yeah.
this is a single level, 3-bedroom, 2-bath property. It's really, if you just kind of want a place to go, but you're going to spend a lot more time out on the deck. The majority of the living area is kind of geared towards being outside. But this will fit plenty of people. You could turn a couple of those into bunk rooms and, fit 6 or 7 people in here. We've integrated the dining table into the island that's there to allow for a little bit more compact space. It's a little more intimate plan, but is going to be much more affordable than most of the higher end kind of custom plans. It's a really simple plan. It's going to insure pretty well, and it's going to shed snow really easily, not onto the spaces that you're trying to spend time. And so we really like this plan. It's a great plan. We just finished one of these about 6 months ago up in Duck Creek, and yeah, we like it a lot.
Yeah, and so Peter and we looked at a ton of lots last time we were up on the mountain a few weeks ago, and I would say it's pretty doable to find a lot for $100,000. So you could realistically have a brand new cabin for $525. Pretty cool.
I would just insert in there, there's going to be a little bit of a cost for your site work and whatnot. Just every single site on the mountain is completely different. We have had situations where I've dug a hole on one side of the lot and hit rock, dug a hole on the other side of the lot, and it was like really cruddy soil that we couldn't build on. So you do see a lot of fluctuation in that. So keep that.
And
in
I
mind.
know that I and Peter are super happy to go lot shopping with you and help you figure out if it's a good lot. And he can, before you've even bought it, especially if we take some due diligence time, we can bring him out and he can dig a test pit if we need to and figure out, okay, is this one that you really want to get involved in?
Yeah.
Tell us about this plan, the hollow starting at 585.
Yeah, so this plan is a 2-story plan. This is funny, this one was built across the street from the Pine. And this is where you want a little bit more garage space. There's an office upstairs in this one that could be eliminated to allow for a little bit larger main floor and great room area. It's got a nice owner suite on it as well. And the garage, it's a 3-car garage in this exact plan, but very easily could convert that into a couple more bedrooms or another gathering space downstairs. This one also has a really nice large deck that wraps around 2 sides. The unique thing about this one is that all of the kind of main areas are going to be upstairs. This would work well as either a walkout basement style or daylight basement style or standalone. The way we built this one is a standalone one, so there's not a lot of craziness to that one, but it is a good option. It's nice and efficient, big deck, nice for views and whatnot. So
Great, beautiful. Now the view.
So this one's a little bit more of a modern style. It does have a great room both upstairs and downstairs. It's got a nice owner's suite, good little entryway, a very small garage. It's more of a storage unit than a garage, but it is nice to have some place to put, ATVs and 4-wheelers and snowmobiles and whatnot. So we wanted to include that in this one. This one, we like building this shed roof style because it's much more conducive to a metal roof. It allows the snow to shed really easily, but also if you have a lot that's got a primary view that you're trying to capture in one direction, this type of a plan is really, really good for that because you have this really nice big tall wall of windows. I like windows a lot. There's a lot of good views up in the mountains, and so this is one that I actually personally designed for a family that wanted to have some entertaining space, but it's also got, a bunk room and 2 other bedrooms, And there is a version of this plan, which I didn't put on there, that does have a 4th bedroom as well downstairs. So it's a great plan.
Is that 3-bedroom?
This is a 3-bedroom.
4-bedroom.
Is that one? Well, there's a 4-bedroom version and a 3-bedroom version.
Okay.
And then you've got, I believe it's 2.5 bath. Is what that one
And
is.
AJ, when you said earlier 100,000, you were talking about Duck Creek.
I know lots in Bryan Head for about 100,000. Obviously, if you're trying to get into the new development, you're gonna pay more than that. But there's stuff right near the resort for about 100,000. And Duck Creek, you can get under 100,000.
Yeah, you
in some
can definitely
cases.
get under 100,000 in Duck Creek.
Okay, so there's the view. Now we're gonna get into some more of the intricate ones. And I was on the mountain last weekend, and I think I saw one that's gonna be about $3 million. Is that right?
Yep.
And then what about the other one? What's
The
that
other
one
one's
coming in
gonna
at?
be between 2 and 2.5 by the time it's all said and done.
So these guys, Jacob Construction, are extremely skilled, and they can build some of the best stuff you'll find anywhere in the country as far as cabins go. But here's one called the Mountain that is going to be about a $1.1 million project.
Yeah, so this is a chalet style cabin, but it's the reason I call this one the Mountain is it's 3 stories. So you're going to be hiking a lot. But one of the locations that we've built this plan, and we've built this one a couple of different times, but one of the locations that we built this plan, you've got a view clear from Duck Creek, basically all the way down onto the coral pink sand dunes, and so it's a really cool spot. The great room in this house is absolutely massive with a really tall vaulted ceiling, great fireplace, and a good entertaining area. The plan flows really well. I believe that this one is a 4-bedroom and 3.5 bathrooms. The master suite is up on the top floor, and so, but it's also very large. So you walk out of the master suite and you see this wall of windows, and it's a pretty cool experience. So it's got a loft in it as well, which is always nice when you're trying to entertain people or have a bunch of family over as well.
So quick side road. I have a premium membership to AirDNA, so I can pull that data. I just threw in Bryan Head. We're looking about 35,000 to 40,000 in average revenue. So we could look at some of their smaller properties, and we can figure out a way to get a lot of your mortgage covered by you allowing it to be an Airbnb. And then obviously something like this will be on the higher end if you decide to Airbnb that as well. And then you have one more spec home, and we do also want to mention too that they do a ton of custom stuff. If you have a plan, there's a like houseplans.net or something. If you've got something in mind, bring it to them. They'll work on it. They may need an architect to draw it up professionally, but the sky's the limit. Is that fair to say?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This one's also one that I worked pretty heavily on the design of, and we did design this for a specific client, but it's such a universal design that we've kind of kept it in the back pocket. When we originally built this house, again, this lot that this is on has like one of the most incredible views of red cliffs in the back, and so it's got 10-foot tall bifold doors that go across a 16-foot wide opening, and it's incredible once you walk through. You can actually, there's a porte-cochere on the front of this house. You can stand in the porte-cochere and look through the entire great room at
What does
the
that
view.
mean?
So porte-cochere is like at a hotel or something where you drive underneath a covered area in the front of the house. We like to put them up there just because it's a little bit nicer for loading and unloading and getting into the house with guests and things like that. And so we try to take all that stuff into consideration. Do you have a question?
Yeah, what do you think? What do you guys think is kind of the ideal Airbnb space? Like some of that's going to be the view and the number of people, but what on average is renting the most, square footage wise, bedroom wise?
So we've had a couple of different clients specifically build houses for Airbnbs and long-term rentals. I'm gonna give two answers to that question. It sort of depends on what you're looking to attract. So if you want to have a really nice high-end rental that's got a lot of bedrooms and everything, Utah's a great place for that because you have tons of family reunions with large families just because of the culture that we have here. If you're looking for something like in a ski community that's for like a couples trip kind of a thing, that's going to be a whole different thing. So a little bit of it is kind of purpose driven in what you're trying to accomplish for yourself and as far as the rental goes. When you're doing the larger family target, you're going to get a lot more money per rental, but you're going to have a lot fewer rentals. Whereas with the smaller ones, you're going to be full more. And so if you're looking at kind of the ideal range, I would say honestly the 1 to 2 bedrooms is going to be really good for kind of the couples trip, keeping it constantly full. You get a lot more of those type of people coming to see the national parks and whatnot around here. But if you're going to go up above that, you're going to want to have at least probably 4 to 5 bedrooms and a bunk room, and then some additional space for people to sprawl out and use, you know, the floor to sleep and whatnot. So
Yeah.
I think there's two sides to that.
And in my mind as well, I mean, Brian Head, I love that because it's got 4 seasons attraction. You know, people love to go there in the fall and spring, people love to go there in the summer, and then people ski. And so I know that there's always going to be demand there. Whereas Duck Creek, I mean, there's a lot of properties there that are not even accessible unless you got a snowmobile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It always boils down to what you're looking for.
So I guess also to answer that, come meet with us. I have a huge database of data for Airbnb rentals, and we can go and figure out, okay, I want to spend $700,000. I want this much of a return. Okay, where are we going to do that? How is that possible? We'll put all that together for you, and because that's at the end of the day, that's my favorite part of my job. Is I don't just want to be a realtor that's there to make my commission and laugh all the way to the bank. I want to provide value, and I want you guys to be like, wow, AJ helped me find the opportunity that's making me money and making me and my family, you know, have lasting wealth over the generations. So.
Yep, I agree. I
Okay.
concur.
So we're at 7:30. We would just open the floor to questions. If you guys need to run, totally understand. But I know Jeff, myself, Iron Desert guys, Peter, we're all willing to stay and talk about individual situations that are on a personal basis. And also, we'd love to meet you on the mountain and talk about if this is feasible for you. And I know Peter and we're going to have some serious conversations because I just sold a rental up north and I've got some 1031 money. And initially, when Peter and I were first talking, I was like, I think that this price point is too high for me, but I really like that $400,000 plan.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have some serious conversations, see if we can figure it out. So
I'm excited.
You got one on the ski and ski out lot?
Yeah, some of the newer areas, it's going to depend on the HOA. For ski and ski out stuff, we're going to want to get the HOA involved really early on before we design too much. They do have a lot of opinions because they see themselves as higher end properties. A lot of times they have minimum footprint sizes and square footages that they'll allow you to build. So that's one of the reasons why I get a little leery of building small stuff in Brian Head, just because they really think they're Park City already, and
they're not yet. They're not.
That's the whole main issue. The first day
Uh-huh.
to Brian Head, I go, I'm buying here, and
Yep.
then every place I look,
Uh-huh.
$279,
Yep.
2-bedroom, but the HOA is $485 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to rent it out for a whole weekend just to cover one
Yes.
HOA. So when it comes to your kind of build, we still have to fit in some kind of HOA.
Yes, there's a few areas that aren't actually incorporated into Brian Head, My in-laws actually have a cabin up there, but you still have to haul water. But there's some areas there that are right on the edge where you can get access to water and electricity that aren't actually incorporated into Bryan Head town, and so they're not part of any HOAs. You're in Bryan Head or in Iron County technically, and so
It would take you how long to get to?
yeah. It's not as far as you would think. I mean, the turnoff where my in-laws' property is, if you know much about Bryan Head, there's a store called Apple Annie's right as you go in, and there's a turnoff right before you get into Apple Annie's off to the right there, and there's a Manzanita Trail is that area right there. And if you drive back up in there, there's properties that are not incorporated into Bryan Head town, but still have access to a lot of the utility offerings that they have.
And I would point out too, Carlos, the main HOA problem in Bryan Head are condominium buildings, because they've just been, they're 30 or 40 years old, things are breaking down, the HOAs have to go up to maintain the building. When we're building a single family cabin on a lot, there may be a tiny HOA for like snow plow or something, but the HOA is not going to be a big part of your life if we can find the right lot, even in parts of Bryan Head.
Yeah, the one thing you do have to be careful of before you pull the trigger on a lot is you want to do your research in Bryan Head for sure. So I'll just tell you one of my horror stories, and I'm supposed to be positive and convincing you guys to build stuff, but I like being real. And so we had a property on Forest Drive over there that we were legitimately 2 days away from pulling the trigger on building and breaking ground on that property, and it ended up getting shut down because right at the 11th hour, their public works director informed us that in order to get our building permit signed off, they were going to require us to improve the road up to where her property was, which meant putting all like a 8-inch main water line that was going to eventually feed the rest of the street. We were going to have to widen the road and get it all prepped for asphalt, and it was going to be like everything and we were going to have to run, the community-sized gas lines and everything like that, and that was going to add $220,000 to her price tag. Jeez. Right 2 days before we were supposed to break ground. So it's really important in Bryan Head to know what you're looking at, and it's important to make as many calls as are necessary. Your real estate agents will help you with 99% of that, but just be aware the mountain is a whole different animal, and it's worth building up there. I can't emphasize that enough, but you really want to make sure you're working with people who know what they're doing, and even still you can have things go wrong. So I can't emphasize that part enough.
Okay. Well, guys, thank you so much for your time today. We'll go ahead and break the class, but we'll stick around if you guys want to talk to us individually. Thank you for your time, and we'd love to talk more about building on the mountain. So,
perfect.
Thank you.